on, getting fairly close to launch. Whether that has done anything to wear out the Falcon 9 or the Dragon, the answer is no. If you can recall, the Falcon 9 is designed for at least 10 flights, and about time we get up to a 10th flight, we'll be doing testing to find that we probably got enough margin to continue keep flying. So this is the very first flight of a new first stage and a new second stage. So we haven't even gotten through the first flight. And in all of our margin calculations, we also take into account the fact that we may scrub a launch. So even today's operation, where we have pressurized and we have stressed the vehicle a little bit, that's taken into account in our design and our qualification testing. The other good thing is that the most stressing part of the flight for the Falcon 9 on the first stage is the reentry. So we didn't even get through that. So we're sitting here on the pad. It's a fairly straightforward situation and not stressing on the Falcon 9. And on the Dragon spacecraft, with the human rating factors to carry crew, there is enough factors of safety, margins of safety, redundancy, that just having two people on board and closing the hatch and even pressurizing the propellant system does not eat into the margins of the vehicle.
Offloads continue nominally, 30% on stage 1
so
launch,
right now everything's continuing to
stage
offload.
1
the automatic sequences that we use routinely, both at the launch sites, Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral, even Vandenberg Air Force Base, as well as in our Texas test site for first and second stage. Those sequences are running. Propellant is coming off of the vehicle per plan. And we see Bob and Doug up in the Dragon spacecraft, just waiting when we can get up there, open the hatch, and help them egress and come on back down the tower. And the other thought I had, Dan and Jesse, is right now we are coming up on what would have been T0. And I'm wondering 10 minutes from now whether the weather officer would turn around and say, yes, it turned good. You just didn't have a long enough window. We only had 1 second and we needed 10 minutes. So we'll have to ask offline and say, hey, did the weather conditions improve? And one thing I'll tag on to that Dan was mentioning and Jesse was talking about, the launch opportunities. The launch window does move earlier on Saturday a little bit. So it just happened to be Orbital Dynamics said today, if you want to go to the International Space Station and you want to launch northeast, which is the approved trajectory, you have to go right at 4:35 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. You pick another day, the T0 moves. It's just luck of the draw. We might have been doing this at 8 in the morning when we were getting lightning, or we could have been doing it.
Oh, lost my camera. Let's see if we can fix that real quick. I'll let this keep playing. I don't know what happened to my camera. It just died. We'll fix it.
For Orbital Dynamics telling us when do we launch, and that stuck us right in the middle of a period of bad weather. So there's my science lesson for today, Dan and Jesse.
Appreciate that, John. That helps soften the blow of just moving past that T-0 time. But for anybody, if you're just tuning in, wondering why Falcon 9 is still sitting there on the pad,
my camera decided it was going to scrub the mission too. Could you imagine? That just happened at 4:34. Could you imagine if my camera decided to scrub in the middle of launching? Are you kidding with that camera? Oh. Now I'm just annoyed because
Dragon, go ahead for weather.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you some more words on the scrub rationale. Yeah, so we basically scrubbed due to 3 rules that we were violating. All 3 would have been expected to clear 10 minutes after our T0 time. And those 3 were natural lightning, the field mills, and the attached anvil.
natural lightning, field mills, which is the energy in the atmosphere. And what was the other one he said?
Yeah, we copy, Jay. We appreciate that update. We can see some raindrops on the windows, and just figured that whatever it was too close to the launch pad at the time we needed it not to be. So we appreciate that and understand that everybody's probably a little bit bummed out. It's just part of the deal. Everybody was ready today, and we appreciate that. And the ship was great, and we'll do it again, I think, on Saturday.
Copy all, and yeah, we concur. And appreciate your resilience sitting there in the vehicle for us.
We got the easy job. Nothing better than being prime crew on a new spaceship.
Copy that.
All right, some
Yikes.
great words.
Oh,
from
there you
Bob.
go. So 3 rules we violated today. Attached anvil clouds, field mills sensors, which is energy in the atmosphere, and natural lightning. Those the 3 rules that we violated, and I believe the violation, this was what we talked about right at T-minus 30 minutes, the violation was that 30-minute window. Those levels were too high earlier in the window. They were coming down and getting to acceptable levels, but they weren't going to get to those acceptable levels fast enough. We would have had to wait until 10 minutes after our T0. All right, well, today was scrubbed due to weather. Next attempt, yep, it's now Saturday, May 30th, 3:22 p.m. Eastern. That's 19:22 UTC. So this was this is a scrubbed mission, which essentially means there's a difference between a mission being postponed or scrubbed. Typically, they would call a mission postponed if they did not start the countdown clocks. Usually once they start the countdown clocks, which is typically like the T-minus, usually it's when it gets into like, I forget what the time is. They're like 6 or 12 hours or something like that. But basically once they start the countdown clocks for the day, if they have to stop, that's when they call it a scrub. Some people, there's not a huge definition for that. I'm sure people in the aerospace industry probably have a finite definition, but some people call it scrubbed when they start fueling the rocket. Some people would call it scrubbed for a crewed mission if crew actually went to the pad. But yeah, basically for my purposes, and I've heard other people use this, is when they start the countdown clock, that's when they would consider it a scrubbed mission versus a postponed mission. So that's the difference in terminology from the aerospace and rocket launch world. How do they go about emptying the fuel tanks? Can they save any fuel? How much was today's fuel? Yeah, so some of the fuel they will lose. That's all the boil-off fuel, particularly like the liquid oxygen that boils off. They lose a lot of that. Not all of it. They can drain and detank a lot of that, and they can save some, not all, but they can save some of the fuel for another launch. So it's not a complete loss. I don't know what the actual cost is. I think Elon has said in the past that the cost is like $500,000 in fuel, but they will get a lot of that back. What's the weather like on Saturday? Weather was looking better for Saturday. We can pull up weather here while we're listening to. Oh, and I did want to say for anybody that's hanging out that wants to. What happened to my YouTube stream? All of a sudden, my panels just went nuts. Am I? Okay, still says I'm live. All of a sudden, I don't know what happened to my display here. All of a sudden, my display just went quickly to 0 viewers. Got me nervous. But anyways, okay, so if you do want to set a reminder, I created an event already on the YouTube page. So go to youtube.com/OLHZN, or if you're watching on YouTube, just click my username. I created another event already for Saturday. You can turn on the reminder for that event so that you don't miss it, and you can come back and find us again on Saturday. So I did create another event for that. Yeah, somebody's talking a bunch of technical issues. That's a problem with a lot of the the more advanced stuff you try to add to your stream,
Now tuning in.
the more things that can go wrong.
Today we did have a scrub because of weather.
So
As we were saying,
that's always that's a battle that I have to struggle with, because I like to add things to the stream to make them more interesting, like our new events panel here. This is new. If you were on, a couple people were on my personal Twitch channel the other day where we were live coding this overlay on the personal Twitch channel. So we had to code this overlay in. It's a brand new custom overlay that I coded together, and that actually worked out pretty well today, I think.
It's always tough because they report in terms of violation, and the optimists have to subtract that from 100% to go, hey, 60% chance, I'll plan my picnic. We were listening, the SpaceX launch director, Mike Taylor, was talking to the launch weather officer asking about the 3 criteria that scrubbed us today. It sounds like in another minute or two, the Lightning and the attached Anvil cloud rules will clear. The field mill rule, charge in the atmosphere, is still bouncing around, and so, hey, we may need several more minutes before that one would clear. So we'd need even longer than 10 minutes in the window today, it looks like, for all the rules to clear. That brings up what I wanted to mention a little while ago. I got lost listening to the weather brief. But there are a lot of folks that are going, why an instantaneous launch window for Falcon 9 and Dragon? Now, typically when we go to the space station, when we do the mission planning, it's an instantaneous window. There may be enough performance in the rocket to launch somewhere in a 5-minute period, but you've got to pick a time in there. But in the case of Falcon 9, once we start propellant load at T-minus 35 minutes, it doesn't matter so much if you can move 5 or 10 minutes left or right, because the whole sequence is scripted. We do the flight analysis assuming that the temperatures of the propellants are below a certain amount so that we know how much performance is available to the rocket, how much margin we're going to have. So essentially, if you start the countdown, 4 hours, 8 hours out like we were doing today, and you have a very short window, once you get into propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes, you have to go as soon as you get to 0. We don't have the ability to stop the countdown, wait 5 minutes. Now all of a sudden the liquid oxygen starts warming up from 340 degrees below 0 in the ground system, and that changes how much performance you get carrying into orbit, and we don't want to cut into those margins. Now, if we had had something like a 4-hour window, which some communication satellites have, we could actually get down to almost 0, hold the count, detank the Falcon 9, wait a while, it takes us about an hour and a half, reload a whole new batch of cold liquid oxygen and fuel from the big storage tank that we've got there at Pad 39A, and try to launch again. But in that case, you have to be able to launch, about an hour and a half or so later after you scrub. And in the case of the International Space Station, an hour and a half from now, it's nowhere near where we need to be to get to orbit with the performance of the Falcon 9 and the Dragon. So today, it's a combination. We start the day with a 1-second window.
Yeah, just informing you, it's
but
been
once
2
we
hours,
get
30
inside of
minutes
35
since
minutes,
rotation, so
it becomes an instantaneous window for the Falcon 9, regardless of what the customer may be able to give us. So there's a little explanation for folks who are wondering why we have such a tight window.
Okay,
Right now, it looks like we are bringing the last bits of
level,
fuel
I would
off of the
say, is
stage,
just about what
and
we'd
liquid
expect. I
oxygen
think,
is just about
that's
off of the
just the
stage.
standard stuff, but
So
not too
things
bad at all.
are clocking right along per the 40-minute
Copy all.
timeline. Everything looks good, and we'll wait to hear that we're clear, and then when we get the call for Bob and Doug to go ahead and disarm launch escape system, and the crew access arm will watch come back out, center itself around the Dragon hatch, and then the ingress team will go up there and open the hatch.
Thank you for the science lesson, John I.
Hey, no charge.
Yeah, so
We did hear a quick call to the crew.
it's
there.
just a
Just under 10 minutes.
gives you kind of an idea of what he was talking about there. I mean, I'll reiterate just in case anybody wasn't following along. Here you go. Snell says wear that same shirt again Saturday, but with at least one SpaceX logo. I got news for you, Snell. This is not just a NASA shirt. Look at SpaceX underneath. SpaceX underneath.
And then
It's cold in my studio, though, so I wanted to have both shirts on. I could go either, but I did have SpaceX shirt underneath. SpaceX underneath, NASA on top. Plus, I thought this would be more entertaining for the live stream. And I feel like that was a success. Because everybody at the beginning of the live stream went, look at that shirt! It was really going for the shock factor there.
Still not the friendliest skies in the background.
So, yeah, we're... man, I can't believe we got so close, to be honest. I was really... I mean, I thought today was going to be scrubbed. I just didn't think we'd get this close. I didn't think we'd get so far through the countdown. Somebody called you Lego guy. I don't know what that means. I think I saw that in the chat, but I don't know what Lego guy means, so feel free to explain that to me. Is that just because like I look like I'd be like a Lego character? Is that what it is? I don't know. I don't understand that. Is that an insult? Is that a compliment? I don't know. I'm dropping from this stream because it's making me sad. I know, right? Kind of want to drop from the stream myself. Now we're gonna hang out. We're gonna watch. I want to watch crew egress. I might take an intermission for a minute because we got to the T-minus 45 minutes and I was like, man, I gotta go use the bathroom here. But we're just holding it together for you guys. Now we're gonna probably take an intermission here in a few minutes. So was it canceled? Yeah, we're scrubbed now. Sure would have been really interesting if Tori was doing blue screen instead of green. Interesting side note, I had to test in my old setup. I used to before I was using OBS, when I used to use.
Again, the launch escape system is still armed. We are waiting for a prop offload to complete before they disarm that, and then they will be able to egress from the Crew Dragon vehicle.
And we just heard we should be just under 5 minutes away from the last of that fuel coming out of the Falcon 9 first stage, and then we'll see those events start to pick back up, and we'll see the crew arm swing back out. They've been in those seats for a couple hours now. They typically get inside of Dragon a little over 2.5 hours ahead of launch, so they've been strapped into these seats for quite a while. They are custom sized though, so they're as comfortable and as snug as possible, obviously, since they're going to be in them for a really long time. But most importantly, when you're doing that splashdown at the very end of the mission, it's your car seat, and splashing down or landing on land is not the most gentle of procedures in a capsule. So just really making sure that they're snug inside of that Dragon capsule. But we should be a little under 5 minutes away from the prop offload being completed.
And as Dan mentioned, those suits are custom made, but the seats are also custom fit for each astronaut as well. They do remain on Crew Dragon for this mission for almost 24 hours so we do want to make sure that they are comfortable and make sure that the suits and the seats are comfortable enough for them to stay in that position for a while. I believe when they get into orbit, they are allowed to get out of their seats and get a little bit more comfortable, but it's a long ride for them.
Yeah, once they do get on orbit, they are able to get out of the seats and actually out of their suits too, since for this flight path today, it was going to take them about 19 hours. So Bob and Doug would actually have had about 8 hours to sleep on board the Dragon capsule.